Erica here, and I'm here today to do a tag! Yay! I don't do a lot of tags, but I like this one, so I'm going to do it. This is the New York Times by the Book tag. It was originally created by Marie Berg, and I will link her original video down below. She is a lovely human and has great taste in books, so if you haven't already subscribed to her, I do recommend checking out her channel. And the premise of this tag, basically, is that there is a book called By the Book that the New York Times put out, and it's a series of questions that were put to famous authors, and so on BookTube, we've been answering the same questions. So, without further ado, question 1 is, what book is currently on your nightstand? Right now, I have quite a stack of books on my nightstand. I usually keep all of the books I'm reading, as well as the next few that I'm planning on picking up there. So I'm right now in the middle of 3 books. I'm reading The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson, which I'm almost done with, and I am really enjoying. It's really good. I'm working my way slowly through this little anthology of poetry called Measure for Measure, and since like the beginning of February, I've been reading The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I am really loving this, but it's very emotionally taxing, so I'm taking it kind of a little bit at a time, but I'm more than halfway through this as well. And then the next few books that I kind of plan to pick up and hope to pick up before the end of March are Uprooted by Naomi Novik, which I'll be reading for the BookTube SFF Awards. Birds of America by Lori Moore. I actually read the first story in this collection, but I haven't gotten back to it yet. And Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. This is a series of speeches and essays by Audre Lorde that I'm very, very excited to read. Question 2 is, what was the last truly great book you read? This was super easy. I just finished The Girl Who Raced Fairyland All the Way Home by Catherine M. Valente, which is the 5th and final book in the Fairyland series. And I've loved the entire series. I think I've given 5 stars to every book except for the 3rd book. And I just read this, and I really want now to go back and reread the entire series over again. I'm having those feelings. So absolutely, absolutely fantastic, and it was a really great kind of end of winter, beginning of springtime read for me. Question 3 is, if you could meet any writer, dead or alive, who would it be? There are lots of writers that I would love to meet, dead or alive, and I think right now, just because she's on my mind, because I've been reading The Bluest Eye, I'm going to go with Toni Morrison, because she's just the most interesting and amazing woman. The follow-up question to this question is, what would you ask them? And I'm not really sure what I would ask Toni Morrison. I have a feeling that I'd really just stand in her presence in awe of her greatness. But yeah, I can't think of a specific question that I would want to ask her. Question 4 is, what book might we be surprised to find on your bookshelf? You'll probably be surprised to know that I have not 1, but 2 John Green books on my bookshelf. I have Paper Towns and The Fault in Our Stars. I have read them both. I'm not going to talk about my thoughts about them. Question 5 is, how do you organize your personal library? So I have 3 large bookshelves. The one that is behind me is for novels, basically. So this is a lot of literary fiction and some genre fiction. And then on the very bottom shelf, which you can't see down here, I have all of my memoirs, essay collections, and poetry. I have a shelf across the room over there that has all of my graphic novels on it, my to-be-read books, some YA books, and a lot of my fantasy series. And then there's another bookshelf out in the living room where I keep my special editions. So all my Penguin classics, cloth-bound classics, my vintage books, things of that nature live out there. And I also have some floating shelves in my living room where most of my hardback fiction lives. And then I have kind of a little cubby under my TV where I keep special editions of just children's classics. So like the Puffin and Bloom editions. My Fairyland books live there, things of that nature. So I have books everywhere, but there is a system to it, I promise. And I do organize all of those shelves pretty much alphabetically by author, last name. Of course, they're split into sections. Like out front, all of my Penguin cloth-bound classics are together, but they're still organized alphabetically by the author's last name. So that is what I do. I've tried organizing them different ways. It doesn't work for me. I keep coming back to this. Question 6 is, what books have you always meant to read but haven't gone around to yet? Are there any books you're embarrassed for having not read? I don't believe in being embarrassed about things that you haven't read, because that's nonsense. There are some books that I have been meaning to read for a long time and haven't gotten around to yet. One of them is Sputnik Sweetheart by Murakami. This is like a really popular Murakami book, and I've read a lot of his other work and just haven't picked this one up yet. The other one is The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton, and this is a vintage copy, but I love The Age of Innocence so much, and I love Ethan Frome so much, and I'm so scared that I'm going to be disappointed by this because I have really, really high expectations for it. So I haven't picked it up yet. I also need to buy a different copy because this one is not for reading. I should not be touching this, really. And lastly, anything by Allie Smith. I still haven't read anything by Allie Smith. I own How to Be Both. I'm going to read it soon, I promise. But, you know, she's one of those authors that I've always wanted to read, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to love, and just haven't done it yet. The next question is, disappointing, overrated, just not good. What book did you feel like you were supposed to like, but didn't? Do you remember the last book you put down without finishing? The last book I put down without finishing was Moby Dick, and it was about the 4th time that I've started reading this. This time I got 119 pages in, which is the farthest I've ever gotten. And I just don't think that Moby Dick and I are going to be friends right now. Maybe later in life. I haven't given up on it, but I need to put it down for a few years. I haven't had any incredibly disappointing reads recently. The one that really sticks out to me always is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. And I'm sure you're familiar with this book. It's very polarizing. People either love it or hate it. I love this first half. I hated the second half. I own the second book in the series, and I own a signed copy, and I haven't given it away, but I don't think I'm ever going to read it, so, you know, just wasn't my thing. Question 8 is, what kinds of stories are you drawn to? Is there anything you steer clear of? I really like stories with flawed characters and kind of dysfunctional characters. I like stories with flawed relationships in them, be them romantic or familial, or just kind of strange relationships between acquaintances. I'm really into that. I like sometimes I really like chaotic stories. Like I like nonlinear narratives and narratives told from multiple perspectives and things that you kind of have to piece together in the end. Things I don't like very much and that I stay away from are cookie cutter type stories. So, you know, I don't read a lot of chick lit. I don't read a lot of romance. I understand that there's a place for those kinds of stories in literature, of course, and you can read whatever you want, but it really frustrates me when things end really well and like everything just fits together so lovely and everyone lives happily ever after. That kind of infuriates me. So I've said it so many times on this channel, I love messy endings, and I feel like sometimes when, you know, all the strings are tied up neatly, it really irritates me. Question 9 is, if you could require the president to read one book, what would it be? I don't know. I guess I should answer this for Barack Obama. Because he's still the president. And Lord knows what's going to happen to this country next, so. Just in general, not for Obama in particular, but the book that I thought of, and again, I'm just thinking of her a lot right now. This is the 3rd time I've mentioned her in this video. Is Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. Because I think that there's a lesson in Song of Solomon that's really important, and it's that history will kind of continue to repeat itself unless individuals kind of act to change that. Of course, there are also really important messages about race relations in this story, but I feel like that overarching theme kind of can apply to any socio-political situation. And so that's my pick for this question. And finally, question 10 is, what do you plan to read next? And I already talked about this a little bit. So I already talked about Sister Outsider and Birds of America and Uprooted. And I also am going to pick up, I think, Mansfield Park by Jane Austen really soon. So those are the things that I plan on reading next. Whether or not I actually read them next, no promises. And that is all. I should tag some people. Who should I tag? Who hasn't done this tag? Oh dear, I don't know who hasn't done this tag. I'm going to do some research and I'm going to tag some people on Twitter first, so look out for that. And if you want to do this tag, you can consider yourself tagged. If you want to discuss any of these questions further, we can do that in the comments, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!